Prime Minister is meeting the South African President as they head indoors. Of course, this is the two-day state visit, with Cyril Ramaphosa having attended that state banquet last night in Downing Street. The door closes. Tom, again, apologies for interrupting, but we just thought we'd bring that picture as the press photographers get back in position, because clearly this is a very important state visit, with Rishi Sunak having unveiled this, £5.37 billion joint partnership deal with South Africa. It's all about the economics as well as the politics.
It certainly is. This was President Ramaphosa arriving for a dinner, for a lunch, I should say, in Downing Street. Not only after this formal bilateral meeting with the Prime Minister, which is shortly to take place, but followed by this lunch, not only with the Prime Minister, but also with the Trade Secretary and with the Foreign Secretary and a number of other senior individuals around the cabinet table. This is really about fostering a partnership between the United Kingdom and South Africa, which is, of course, the United Kingdom's largest trade partner on the continent of Africa as things stand. Developing that trade relationship even further is a very clear goal of this government, and of course this was something that was in the a long time being planned, because of course this was meant to take place, this state visit was meant to take place rather earlier, of course being delayed by the sad death of Her Majesty the Queen.
And of course, the Commonwealth so important to her, and that clearly being now emphasised by King Charles once more. But, I mean, the question of trade deals, is pretty important to this government, isn't it?
Well, it is. It's totemic, really, of the promise of Brexit, which is something that, of course, faced some scrutiny earlier this week after a senior government figure was reported to have said that they would rather have a Swiss relationship with the EU, that being locked within some sort of regulatory orbit. And we know that the way that modern trade deals work isn't just about tariff scheduling, isn't just about not taxing imports and exports. It's also about what regulations you accept from your trading partner. What rules do you align or indeed say that you have equivalence of? And this is really the fundamental of modern trade. It's why the EU single market is held up by many trade experts as something that is really rather facilitating of trade. If everyone has the same rules, you don't have to stop things coming forward. But there's another way to do trade, which isn't about everyone having the same rules governed by the same system. There is a way to recognise other rules under what's called mutual recognition, and perhaps Britain is looking to do more of that in the way that we do our trade rather than harmonisation. But it all does come back to that question of the economy, which of course Sir Keir Starmer was predicating most of his questions at Prime Minister's questions on. The recent OECD report, which is not happy reading for people looking at the United Kingdom's growth rate, predicted growth rate, looking pretty sclerotic over the next few years. However, the Prime Minister was well briefed on this question and could point to the fact that this year the United Kingdom has the fastest growth in the G7, although predicted to drop off fairly sharply in the years to come. The real point, I think, was that this ended up being much more of a scored draw for Sir Keir Starmer, going on to that sort of home turf that the Prime Minister was well briefed on over the issue of the economy, rather than more tricky issues of backbench rebellions, which were only fleetingly mentioned by the leader of the opposition.